Hello everyone and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan, a TV program that provides opportunities for local authors in the DMV area to share their journey to getting published and on their way to becoming bestsellers. Now we all have a different definition to what happiness means to us, individually speaking, and this is one of the reasons why we created this show. Besides, of course, helping authors promote and market their books. If you're an aspiring author or not, this program is yours to enjoy. With us today, we have William Powell, the author of Return to Skull Island, a fantasy genre book like Game of Thrones, and he will be sharing with us his journey to publishing and marketing his books. Definitely a challenge for many authors out there, especially when juggling with several books to market at any given time. William, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me here today, Dan.
Great. Now, how was your journey to coming here?
Whoa, well, today it was just a breeze. I really, very easy.
Good. Now, what all of our authors or all of our viewers would like to be able to know is what really brought you to writing books? What did you wake up one day and said, I want to be an author?
My mama was a writer, and she put a pen in my hand when I was little. And I would sit there and I'd draw. I'd lay on the floor for hours and just like draw cartoons, and I had all kinds of superhero characters I created one superhero character called the Sphinx.
Okay.
And he was sort of like, his costume was like orange and yellow, and he had like a kind of like a yellow triangle on his chest, and he could like float around, and I'd draw it with like little colored pencils and things like that. I had another character called the Defender, and he could fly around. He had like a blue costume, blue and green costume, and he'd fly around and everything. And then when I was a teenager, I got into poetry, and I got into writing for Ellery Queen's mystery magazine. And that was a magazine that I don't know if it's really published anymore, but I'd write mystery stories, and I collected a lot of rejection slips. And then from there, University of Maryland, I studied journalism. And eventually I did have a deep yearning to want to write fiction. So early in 2002, I wound up writing Return to Skull Island, which was kind of like a fantasy science fiction Sinbad the Sailor kind of story, basically. The main character, Omri Darkblade, he's got to smuggle these laser rifles for the support of a rebellion, and it's got a lot of sword fights and a lot of action and things like that. So that was a lot of fun to write.
Yeah, how long did it take you to write the book?
It took about 5 or 6 months to write.
And how long did it take from the finishing of the manuscript, the draft, to getting it published?
Well, that took probably about a year. I went through iUniverse. There was a self-publishing craze like in the early 2000s. So I self-published at that point. I did wind up going with a small publisher, Echelon Press. I wrote another book. I don't have it here today. It's an ebook, Valkyrie. Okay. It was kind of like a dystopian, futuristic sort of Resident Evil, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider kind of story that took place in the near future. And that was like about 300 pages. That one I went through Echelon Press. I used to be on the board of the Maryland Writers Association back in the early 2000s, and one of the board members was the owner and publisher of Echelon Press.
Okay.
So she was actually able to publish my book, and that was in 2007. And that one took a long time to write. It started out as a short story that I wrote back in 2000, and from there, that thing evolved into this novel.
Wow.
And that came out like 7 years later. So that took a long time.
Is it the Valkyrie book?
Yeah, Valkyrie, yeah.
Okay. Because I remember there was a movie with Tom Cruise.
That's totally different.
Renegade
That's
of like
completely
German
different.
people that try to kill Hitler.
Completely different.
Okay.
Completely different. Yeah, it kind of killed marketing. That's why marketing books is so hard, because the title you can't really copyright a title. You can't really copyright a title, so that can kill your marketing.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the writing, what would you say was the biggest challenge to be able to sit down and to write the book? Now, did you come across writer's block? How did you overcome it?
Well, writer's block is, if you're a professional, you can't really afford to have it. it really comes down to trusting the universe, God, to not only give you those ideas, but to have the discipline to actually carry those ideas out. Now, there's a lot of tools you can use. Now, if you're a writer, you can use different tools, like, for example, you can use mind maps. Mind maps help you expand your ideas. So you'll start out with idea A, B, and C, and you can, if you, I don't know if you're familiar with mind maps, Dan.
I didn't come across it yet.
Okay,
but,
but basically what it is if I want to have a plot. So if I want to start out with, I would take a big sheet of paper and I'd write on there in the center in a circle, I'd write hero. And then from there I'd write a line, and then I'd have basically a line that would talk about what he's doing, like you'd use a verb.
Like a storyline.
Yeah, it's kind of a storyline to another circle. So we'd have hero goes, and then another circle would be to Mars. So one location would be Mars, and then from Mars you would have a conflict. You have a line that says conflicts with, and then another circle, and you'd have like maybe your villain.
Okay.
So it kind of helps you come up with good ideas when you're trying to brainstorm. There's also another good tool created by B.L. Stryker. Now, B.L. Stryker was the guy that created the Green Hornet and also the Lone Ranger. Okay, and basically he came up with a matrix, and basically you'd have different locations. So you'd have Mars, Earth. Well, if it was the Lone Ranger, it might be a silver mine, it might be a ghost town, it might be the desert, it might be Mexico, and those would be locations. And then he'd have another column there talking about villains. So the villain one day would be a banker, it might be a bank robber, it might be a desperado. And basically using like dice, you could roll the dice, and sort of like playing bingo, you could come up with random numbers. So let's say if you have location 5 and then villain number 4. So location 5 would be the desert. Villain number 4 might be, I don't know.
Desperado, for example.
A desperado. Okay. So, you know, so he would use that to create a plot, basically. So there's all different kinds of tools you can use. Okay. Stephen King came up with something. He talked about a plot wheel. Apparently, there was a British author, Edgar Wallace, and he had like a plot wheel, basically. Okay. And basically, you kind of spin the wheel and come up with different ideas. But those are things you can use if you get stuck. What I find, it's very good to use just the pen and the paper. And if you go back to George Lucas, he would use a yellow pad and a pen, basically. And I find that I write a lot faster, you know, just longhand.
Really?
And that really stimulates my mind more so than writing something that's more technical or something that's more by the book. I write a lot of theater reviews, and those kind of have a format. So if you're writing something like that, you know, a newspaper article, you can just use like a laptop or something like that, just a computer. Something that's more creative, you might want to step back and just write longhand, you know, and you'll have.
That helped you a lot?
Yeah, that helps me a lot. Yeah, helped me a lot. Yeah.
So when it comes to which author inspired you the most when it comes to deciding to write?
I think my mom. Besides my mom, I would say probably Stephen King. Okay. James Elroy is a good writer. He wrote L.A. Confidential. There is George Pelecanos, who's a local mystery writer. He used to also write for the show The Wire. He was a good writer. Kurt Sutter, who wrote Sons of Anarchy, is a very, very good writer. Sean Ryan, who wrote The Shield, is a very good writer. Vince Gilligan, who wrote Breaking Bad. A lot of your best writing, I think, right now, Dan, I think is on Basic Cable. There's a lot of good writing there. I don't read as many novels as I used to, but a lot of your good writing is on TV. There's George R.R. Martin, who wrote Game of Thrones, and I am starting to go back and read some of those books, and it's just amazing to me just how long his books are. And as I get older, I like to read or listen to books on tape. Oh, yes. And what was it, Game of Thrones, that sucker is like, what is it, 28 discs? 33 and a half hours of material. I'm just in awe of this man that he can write. Like, I mean, this is just like I think the first set of books, or I guess the first book, like 33 and a half hours of like materials. You're sitting there listening to all that material. That's a lot.
You can travel
lot.
very, very far, huh?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Good, good, good. And do you feel that those, especially your book,
Yeah.
Return to Skull Island,
Yeah.
it was based on Game of Thrones, or it was something similar, right?
Well, it's just watching like movies at the drive-in theater growing up. It was really amazing, the ideas that, Thomas Edison said that ideas are in the air. Basically you could pull ideas out of the air. Stephen King said basically the same thing, is that God gives us a lot of ideas, and they're out there. I came up with ideas similar to the show Empire, but my story would have been different. But this is how it is. You got to bring it down and put it
into paper.
There you go.
Exactly. Now, when we come back from a quick break, we will continue our conversation with William and address his many challenges as an author promoting his book to a wide audience. Stay tuned. Message from the universe. Keep it silent until, just act normal. If you let just anyone know about your awareness of the legions in the unseen doing your bidding, or the population shift now being sparked by your very words, or the circumstances and events presently being crafted by your own thoughts, you just might create the illusion that you're from not so distant parallel star system, possessing mysterious powers, favored by fate, here to save the world. And man, oh man, you do not want that to happen. The universe. Lots of jealous people out there wanting you to fail. When you create a negative thought against someone, you're aligning the planets to send negative energy their way, which might ultimately delay their success. There is a risk to all that though. When wishing bad things upon others, you are bringing negative outcome to yourself as well. Of course, if you have absolutely nothing to lose because you are already miserable in your own life, you might just say, it cannot get any worse, so who cares, right? However, you need to realize that if your condition ever gets better and you come across a great opportunity, this great outcome won't last because of all the negative energy that you poured into someone else. The universe will play games with you and make you believe that finally you are getting a break to eventually take that opportunity away from you and bring you hell again. When you have plans to create something big, learn to avoid sharing it with the others. Let the world figure out by themselves when it actually happens. Just continue with your ultimate plan to become better and offer the best to everyone you encounter. If people are nasty, there's no reason for you to do the same. Life's too short. Now, to learn more about the universe, be sure to catch my show, The Happyness Journey, right here on MCM. Welcome back, everyone, to the Happyness TV Show. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm here talking with William, the author of Return to Skull Island. William, thank you very much for being here today again and sharing your extensive knowledge in publishing and writing.
Absolutely.
Now, when it comes to designing the book cover,
yes.
Now that's really a very important step in terms of how to market it and how to really attract the type of people who want to read this book. Now, how did you come up with the cover?
It's a long story. That's a very good question, Dan. Mm-hmm. You know, I have no idea who actually designed it because it was designed through outsourcing.
Okay.
I was told by the Universe company, the publisher, that it was designed over in China. So
wow,
I think whoever it was, the great graphic designer in China who designed this fantastic cover. I mean, just look at it. There's a skull coming out of the island there. It's just awesome. It's just awesome. I mean, I was just so proud of it when it came out.
Did you have to go through a lot of designer to be able to decide which
really.
one you wanted, or it was immediate?
They sent me a JPEG, and it was like just the most beautiful thing you ever seen, man. It's just like your heart just starts pounding, and it's like,
amazing.
Wow, I'm going to be a published author. It's like, wow, look at this cover. How could you not love a cover like that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, when you did the inside writing, now did you get it proofread, or did you have an editor? How did you go through that process?
I did it all myself. You know, I'm going to make a confession here right on TV
Go
in front of everybody. I used to be a assistant editorial worker at Smithsonian back in the early 90s.
Okay.
And I used to actually edit some of the content for the touchstone screens, the touch screens in the castle. I used to work in the castle there, and I didn't do too well at that job. You know why? Because I was a lousy proofreader.
Okay.
I was a terrible proofreader. I've gotten better over the years at proofreading, and this book was I proofread it myself. I had a few friends go through and kind of look at it. Proofreading, Dan, as you know, is just very, very tedious.
Yes,
it's just very, very tedious. And I tell you, it's really tough. Smithsonian taught me how to proofread better. It taught me what my weaknesses are.
Oh, good.
And you know, we all have weaknesses. And
Absolutely,
to this
no one's
day,
perfect.
to this day, that's one of my weaknesses is proofreading. But I've gotten better. There's a lot of technical tricks and things like that, and a lot of it is trust. A lot of it is basically reading every word. There's different tricks. You can read things backwards. There's things you can do with your cursor on your screen and things like that. But as far as proofreading this book, it was really, really tough. It just takes a long, long time.
So how do you stay motivated?
You know, Dan, it comes down to having a vision. You have a vision of where you want to go. I mean, you're here and you want to get there, and you just hold fast to that vision, basically. And that motivates you. That motivates you because you have that vision and you know that's where you want to go. And even when things are tough and you don't feel like writing, you realize that you're the only person in the world that can do it. You know, it's been said that writing fiction can be like crossing the Atlantic Ocean in a bathtub all by yourself.
Interesting, yeah.
And it's a very solo art form.
Journey, yes.
Unlike the collaborative art form of being a director or an actor, if you or I were in a scene together, you kind of hold half the scene and we kind of go back and forth.
Correct. We feed each other.
We feed each other. For in sports, I can throw you the ball, you can catch it. You can throw me the ball, I can catch it. If it's writing, it's just very, very singular, man. I tell you, it's like, it's something that you have something to say. You have something to add to the human condition that needs to be said, basically. And this story has to be told, and you're the only one that can tell it. And the Lord gave you this idea. As I said earlier, Dan, ideas are in the air. And it's sort of like if you're Michelangelo working on a sculpture, the sculpture is within that block of granite, and it's for you to chisel it away. And I really believe, Dan, that a lot of these stories, especially in fiction, I think a lot of that structure and that story, I think it's already there. There's a universal mind, and we just have to kind of tap into that source. I mean, Wayne Dyer talks about a source. You have to kind of you tap into that. And it's interesting that you brought up editing and proofreading. That's really the hard work. There's always the job part of your job, the drudgery part of your job.
Yes.
And that's where you cut it down and you get down to the essence and you come up with that great story that people hopefully want to read.
That's amazing. I mean, it's like, but that's the inspiration that you have to share to others who are looking to be able to write.
Right.
Because for them, they think that after their first book,
Yeah.
they're going to become J.K. Rowling or Stephen King, you know, and that's the biggest problem because some people are so focused in writing because they think it's going to make them a multimillionaire.
No.
But unfortunately, this is not it's far from the truth.
Exactly.
So we definitely have to look at different aspects of writing
Exactly.
when it comes to what are the best approach. Now, what would you recommend to an author who comes to you and that you inspire and you will tell him what when it comes to writing? Does he have to write with the expectation of becoming a multimillionaire, or they have to write because they love it, because they're energized to be able to provide this kind of like talent?
I would lean toward the latter, and I would add to that write because you want to be of service. You want to be of service to your fellow man and to the universe, really. That is where you should start first and foremost. as far as the consideration of money and being a multimillionaire and the New York Times bestseller,
Bestsellers, yeah.
I mean, Wayne Dyer talked about that as well. He used to check to see where he was on the New York Times bestseller list. Throw all that away. Don't even worry about that. Just worry about just really putting out there your vision, what the Lord put on your heart to do, telling the best story you can, and you've done your part. And after that, if the book takes off and becomes whatever it becomes,
Or Harry Potter.
there you go. That would be great. But never do it for commercial reasons. No.
Good, good. Now, do you feel like as an author, when it comes to your journey,
Yeah.
to be able to write your books,
Yeah.
I mean, the many books that you've written,
Yeah.
do you feel that you're going to continue on that path? Do you feel that you have more to talk, more to share?
I do. I have some good ideas for some web series and movies and things like that. And that's something I really want to get into. As far as physical books, I have thought about kind of going toward your path, Dan, is actually getting into the self-improvement. I'm really heavily into self-improvement.
Okay.
And that's something that I definitely want to write more articles and possibly even a book about.
Definitely. It's, you know, it's, I think my passion,
Yeah.
beside the writing part,
Yeah.
is to be able to kind of like motivate, inspire people.
Exactly,
And like
yeah.
you do as well. We all
Right.
share the same purpose. I mean,
Exactly.
you know, we were put on earth for that reason.
Right,
So I guess
exactly.
that, you know, the fact that you're here today, to be able to take some time out of your schedule,
Yes.
to be able to share your passion for, you know, helping people, helping
Exactly.
authors to be able to get themselves published and so on and so
Right.
forth. This is very admirable. Not
Right.
a lot of people will even put time to invest. And like there's Zig Ziglar who said,
Yes.
learn to help others
Right.
before you help yourself.
Exactly.
And that really caught me and that really kind of inspired me to be able to stop thinking about myself, not be selfish anymore,
Right.
and become selfless.
Exactly.
And that's actually my journey to
Yes.
becoming happier.
Exactly. Yes.
Now, well, folks, that's all the time we have for today's show. I want to thank William for sharing his experience with all the viewers out there and also his journey to becoming a published author. Now, if you'd like to purchase his book, it will be available on Amazon.com. We hope that you've enjoyed the show today, and we hope to have you back and enjoying our next episode coming up very soon. Now, you can also view our past episode on YouTube by typing the Happyness Journey. Now, here are a few words of wisdom. Now, best case scenario, you really are a magnificent, powerful, divine being of light. Your thoughts really do become things. Nothing is impossible. Your dreams are meant to be. And these words of wisdom are from an ancient, wise, all-loving, all-knowing best friend. Now, the worst case scenario, you're just dreaming you're a magnificent, powerful, divine being of light. Your thoughts really do become things. Nothing is impossible. Your dreams are meant to be. And these words of wisdoms really are from an ancient, wise, all-loving, all-knowing best friend. And the difference would be just a dream. So why not make it a reality? My name is Dr. Dan Amzalag, and have yourself a wonderful day.